Assalamu alaikum. I am Sheikh Farzana, Assistant Professor English, Dhaka College, Dhaka. How are you, my dear students? Hopefully you are fine. As we passing through a bad situation because of the pandemic, we have to stay at home. If we stay at home, we will be safe. So my dear students, stay home, stay safe. And staying at home, you have to continue your study. Today I am going to take a class for honors first year students, and my course title is Introduction to Prose Fiction and Non-Fiction, and my course code is 104, and my topic is Garden Party, which is a short story by Katherine Mansfield. So now at first I will tell something about Katherine Mansfield, who is the authoress of Garden Party. Katherine Mansfield was one of the greatest short story writers and was born in 1888 in New Zealand. Her full name is Katherine Mansfield Beauchamp, and her father was Harold Beauchamp, a banker. And she was a very talented writer. That's why she could publish her first text at the age of 9 in 1897. Then, 1903, she was sent to London for her education. And then 1906, she came back to New Zealand again. Finally, 1908, she went to London again. And she settled over there to establish her literary career. But unfortunately, she died of tuberculosis in 1923 at the age of 35. In the short duration of his life, she could write few short stories, and most of them become masterpieces. And Garden Party is one of them. So as Garden Party is a short story, and there are some particular characteristics of a short story or elements of short story. So my dear students, I will describe about the elements of short story so that you can understand the short story better. That is, 1. Begins suddenly or abruptly. In a story, there is a beginning, middle, and ends. But short story starts with the middle, not from the beginning. And the other characters, or from the characters, we come to know the background or the beginning of the story. Abrupt begins suddenly. So this thing we find in a short story. And good example of this is Luncheon. I think all of you went through this short story. And next one is short in length. That in a short story we will find 5,000 to 10,000 words. So this is the length of short story. Next one, characters are limited. In a short story, a single character may be a character of a short story. So the characters are limited. Next one is a single setting. That is, the places, the time and the places are used in the story are called setting. And that is, in a short story, there are particular time and particular places are used in the short story, that is called setting. And single setting. And next one, a central character. There may be few supporting character, and this one is also very common elements of a short story. There's one major character, one protagonist, and there may be few supporting character. And next one, single theme. Theme is very important. Theme is the main idea of the story. That is, the main subject matter of the story is called theme. So in a short story, we will find one subject matter or one main idea. last but not the least, and the ends with a powerful suggestion. That means end of the story we will get a moral lesson. Now my dear students, I will give information about the characters of the garden party. So let me introduce the characters of the garden party. Number 1, Laura Sheridan. Laura Sheridan is the protagonist of the story and youngest daughter of Mrs. Sheridan. Then Mrs. Sheridan. Mrs. Sheridan is the mother of Laura. And Laura Sheridan is the brother of Laura and son of Mrs. Sheridan. Then Meg Sheridan is the second daughter of Mrs. Sheridan. Then Ju Sheridan is the third daughter of Mrs. Sheridan. Then Mr. Scott is a poor neighbor of Sheridan family who had just died. And then Im Scott is the wife of Scott. Then Im's sister is the sister of Im. And there are other characters that is called Sadi. Sadi is the female servant of Sheridan family, and the cook is the cook of Sheridan family. So these are the characters we will find in garden party. Now my dear students, I will tell about the theme of the story, that is particular theme of garden party, that is class structure, class discrimination of the society. The authoress focuses on the class discrimination of the society, that is the rich people do not like the poor people, that is the people are considered in terms of money and wealth in our society. So this is the theme of garden party. So this theme we will find in garden party. Now my dear students, I will tell about the summary of the story. So the story was published in 1922. And the story Garden Party starts with the description of the weather. The weather is perfect for a gorgeous garden party because Sheridan family is going to have a gorgeous garden party. So members of the Sheridan families are going to have a gorgeous garden party in their lawn, so that everyone is busy. From very early in the morning, the gardeners mowing the grass and cleaning the garden. And then 4 workmen come to set up a large tent with their necessary tools. And Laura Sheridan is the protagonist of the story and youngest daughter of Mrs. Sheridan is charged with instructing the workmen on the placement of the tent. And she does it very normally and very nicely and very smoothly because she was a very spontaneous girl. And Mrs. Sheridan has ordered huge or bundle of lilies because flowers enhance the beauty of the garden party. Then Ju Sheridan is the daughter of Mrs. Sheridan, is practicing or testing her piano so that she can sing a song in the party. So everyone is busy and everyone is in a pleasant mood. But suddenly they heard the death news of Scott. Scott is a poor neighbor of Sheridan family. And after hearing the death news of Scott, Laura wants to postpone the garden party because Scott is a poor neighbor. As one of their neighbor died, so they have to stop the garden party. Then she insists her sister, her mother, to postpone the garden party. But they criticize the idea of stopping the garden party because who is Scott? Scott is a poor person, and they do not, as Scott is a poor person, they do not consider Scott their neighbor as well as human being because Mrs. Sheridan is a snob. She considers people in terms of money and wealth. So she doesn't stop the garden party. When party starts, everyone enjoys the party except Laura. Laura doesn't enjoy the party, but in front of anyone, she doesn't express her emotion. She remains normal. But she could not or cannot forget the accidental death of Scott. And when the party is being over, Mrs. Sheridan gets the idea. That is, she wants to send the leftover food to the house of Scott. But Laura protests against this idea. She doesn't like this idea to send the leftover food of the party to the house of Scott. But when her mother creates pressure on her, she went to the house of Scott with the leftover food of the party. And when she reached the houses of Scott, she was very nervous because having a gorgeous party. And seeing the dead face of Scott, she gives a loud sob like a child. And then, seeing the body of Scott, she thinks the dead man is enjoying such a peaceful sleep. And the dead man, the dead peaceful face seems to her much more divine and noble than the garden party. And asking forgiveness from the dead body, she comes out from the house of Scott. My dear students, I told you at the end of the short story you will get a moral lesson. The moral lesson of this story is that our life is very transitory. That means our life is very short. Death can visit our life anytime. Death will visit the house of poor and houses of rich as well. So everyone has to face this reality of life because our life is very short, very transitory. So why should we do this class discrimination? Now, my dear students, from this short story, I can mention two important questions. One is the character of Laura and another is the picture of the society of garden party, the picture of the society of garden party. So these important two questions I can suggest or mention. That is, in a character of Laura, we find certain characteristics. Number one, she was a very spontaneous girl. That is, when she was charged with instructing the worker on the placement of the tent, she does it very easily, very normally and without any hesitation. So that we come to know that she was a very spontaneous girl. And then another quality of her character is that she was very soft-minded and well-mannered girl. That is, the people of the higher classes or the people of the higher classes are very proud of their rank and position. But Laura is free from in this respect. That is, when her mother just gave the charge to give instruction to the worker, she does it very normally, nicely, and just at first she also expresses expresses her greetings to the worker. So we come to know that she is a very well-mannered and she mixed with the workers very normally. And another characteristic is that, or quality of her character is that she was a very sympathetic girl. That is, when Sheldon family is going to have a garden party, but suddenly they heard the death news of Scott. And after hearing the death news of Scott, only she wants to stop the garden party. Because Scott, she considers Scott as their neighbor, and as one of their neighbors died, so how can they continue their garden party? So she wants to stop the garden party because of the death of Scott, and she insists her sister, her mother, to stop the garden party but they only criticize the idea of stopping the garden party, but they do not stop the garden party. So she was very sympathetic. That's why she wants to stop the garden party. Again, she was a very obedient child. That is, when the party was being over, her mother gets the idea that she wants to send the leftover food to the houses of Scott. But she doesn't like this idea, to send the leftover food of the party to the house of Scott. But when her mother told her, she went to the houses of Scott with the leftover food of the party, because she was a very obedient child. And then Laura is only 12 years old girl, but she got the maturity of life. She realized the meaning of life. That seeing the dead body of Scott, she understood the real meaning of life. That is, our life is very short and our life is very transitory. So why should we do this class discrimination? So these are the quality we will find in the character of Laura. And another important question is the social picture of garden party. In this story, the authoress clearly shows the class discrimination of the society by the help of Sheridan family, especially Mrs. Sheridan. Mrs. Sheridan is totally a snob. She doesn't like the poor people, and she considers people in terms of money and wealth. And the people in the higher classes think that anyone with less money is inferior to them. On the other hand, the lower classes people feel that they are not worthy of mixing with above them. So they also do not like the rich people. So this picture we will find in garden party, but we should not do this because our life is very short, our life is very transitory. So why should we do this class discrimination? But this is the reality of our world. This is not only the picture of the garden party, this is the picture of the whole world. So my dear students, that's all for today. Stay home, stay safe, and staying at home, you have to continue your study. So that's all. Thank you very much.